Chapter 18 of Ruth Fielding at Briarwood Hall. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. Recording by Lynn Thompson. Ruth Fielding at Briarwood Hall, or Solving the Campus Mystery, by Alice B. Emerson. Chapter 18. The Mystery Again. The organization of the Sweet Briars had gone on apace. 2 general meetings had been held. Every newcomer to the school who had entered the junior classes, saving Helen Cameron, had joined the new society. The Committee on Constitution and Bylaws was now ready to report, and this very afternoon Ruth and 2 other girls waited on Mrs. Tellingham to ask permission to hold social meetings in one of the assembly rooms on stated occasions, as the other school societies did. The trio of Sweet Briars had to wait a little while in the hall outside the library door, for Mrs. Tellingham was engaged. Mary Cox came out first, and as she passed Ruth she tossed her head and said, "Well, are you here to tattle about somebody else?" Ruth was stricken speechless, and the girls with her asked wonderingly what the older girl had meant. I do not know just what she means," gasped Ruth. "Only that she meant to hurt me if she can." "She's mad with you," said one, "because you started the S.B.'s and wouldn't join her old Upedes club." "That's it," said the other. "Don't you mind Miss Fielding." Then the maid told them they could go into the library. Mrs. Tellingham looked very grave, and sat at her desk tapping the lid thoughtfully with a pencil. This was one occasion when Dr. Tellingham was not present. The countenance of the Preceptress did not lighten at all when she saw Ruth come in. "What is it, Miss Fielding?" she asked in a brusque way. Ruth stated the desire of the new society briefly, and she was positive, before Mrs. Tellingham replied at all, that the mention of the Sweet Briars did not please the lady. "You girls will fill your time so full with societies and leagues and what all, that there will be little space for studies. I am half sorry now that I ever allowed any secret or social clubs to be formed at Briarwood. But while we have the Forward Club, I cannot well deny the right of other girls to form similar societies. But I am not pleased with the Up and Doing Club. I understand that every girl but one reported out of her room after retiring bell last evening, in the West Dormitory, was a member of the Up and Doings. And the other girl was you, Miss Fielding," she added sternly. "And you are a member of this new organization. What do you call it? The S.B.'s, is it?" "The Sweet Briars," said Ruth bravely. "And I am sorry I did anything to bring any cloud upon the name of the new club. I promise you, Mrs. Tellingham, that I will do nothing in the future to make you sorry that you sanctioned the formation of our society." Very well," said the Preceptress hastily. "You may have the same rights and under the same conditions that the older clubs have. And now, Miss Fielding, stop here a moment. I have another matter to speak to you about." The other girls went away, and Ruth, somewhat troubled by the manner of Mrs. Tellingham, waited her pleasure. The Preceptress took up a letter from her desk and read it through again. "Mr. Davison, you know, Ruth," she said quietly. "He and your uncle, Mr. Jabez Potter, have arranged to send here to school a lame girl named Curtis." "My uncle!" gasped Ruth. "Oh, I beg your pardon, Mrs. Tellingham, but are you sure it is my uncle who is sending Mercy Curtis?" "With Mr. Davison, yes," the Preceptress said in some surprise. "They have equally charged themselves with her expenses at Briarwood, if she can remain here. You know her, of course." "Helen and I have talked of her almost every day, Mrs. Tellingham," said Ruth warmly. "She is very quick and sharp, and she is much improved in disposition from what she used to be." "I hear you speak of her so kindly with pleasure, Miss Fielding," said the head of the school, "for it opens the way to a suggestion that Dr. Davison makes. He wishes Mercy Curtis to room with you." "With Helen and me?" cried Ruth in delight. "Of course. I slept in Mercy's room all the time she was at the Red Mill last summer, and we got on nicely together." "But you do not know how Miss Cameron will receive the suggestion of having a third girl in your small room." "Oh, Helen is so kind," Ruth cried. "I do not believe she will object. And she is sorry for Mercy." I know you have been Helen's constant companion. Do you think you have been as good friends as you were when you came to Briarwood, Ruth?" asked Mrs. Tellingham, with sharpness. "Helen? Oh, I hope so, Mrs. Tellingham," cried Ruth, in great distress. "I am sure I love her just the same, and always shall." "But she evidently finds her friends among the Upedes. Why did she not join this new society that you have started?" "I did not mean to start it without her," stammered Ruth. "It was really only my suggestion. The other infants took it up." "But you named it?" "I did suggest the name," admitted Ruth. "And you did not join the Up and Doing Club with your chum?" "No, Mrs. Tellingham, nor did I join the F.C.'s. I did not like the manner in which both societies went about making converts. I didn't like it the very first day we came." "Miss Picolet, your French teacher, told me something about Mary Cox meeting the stage and getting hold of you two girls before you had reached Briarwood at all." "Yes, ma'am." "By the way," said the Preceptress, her brow clouding again and the stern look coming back into her face that had rested on it when Ruth had first entered the room, "you had met Miss Picolet before you arrived at the school?" "She spoke to us in the stage, yes, ma'am." "But before that? Had you seen her?" "Yes, ma'am," said Ruth, slowly beginning to suspect that Mrs. Tellingham's curiosity was no idle matter. "Where?" "On the Lanawaxa, the boat coming down the lake, Mrs. Tellingham." "Miss Picolet was alone aboard the boat?" Ruth signified that she was. "Did you see her speaking with anybody?" "We saw a man speak to her. He was one of the musicians. He frightened Miss Picolet. Afterward we saw that he had followed her out upon the wharf. He was a big man who played a harp." "And you told this to your schoolfellows after you became acquainted here?" Mrs. Tellingham spoke very sternly indeed, and her gaze never left Ruth's face. The girl from the Red Mill hesitated but an instant. She had never spoken of the man and Miss Picolet to anybody save Helen, but she knew that her chum must have told all the particulars to Mary Cox. "I believe we did mention it to some of the girls. It impressed us as peculiar, especially as we did not know who Miss Picolet was until after we were in the stagecoach with her." "Then you are sure you have not been one who has circulated stories among the girls about Miss Picolet, derogatory to her, I mean?" "Oh, Mrs. Tellingham, never!" cried Ruth, earnestly. "Do you know anything about this silly story I hear whispered that the marble harp out there on the fountain was heard to play the night you and Miss Cameron arrived here?" "Oh!" ejaculated Ruth. "I see you know about it. Did you hear the sound?" "Yes, ma'am," admitted Ruth. "I will not ask you under what circumstances you heard it, but I do ask if you have any knowledge of any fact that might explain the mystery." Ruth was silent for several moments. She was greatly worried, yet she could understand how this whole matter had come to Mrs. Tellingham's knowledge. Mary Cox, angry at Miss Picolet, had tried to defame her in the mind of the Preceptress. Now, what Ruth knew was very little indeed. What she suspected regarding a meeting between the French teacher and the man with the harp at the campus fountain was an entirely different matter. But Mrs. Tellingham had put her question so that Ruth did not have to tell her suspicions. "I really know nothing about it, Mrs. Tellingham," she said finally. "That is all. I do not believe you or Miss Cameron would willingly malign an innocent person. I have known Miss Picolet some time, and I respect her. If she has a secret sorrow, I respect it. I do not think it is nice to make Miss Picolet's private affairs a subject for remark by the school. Now, we will leave it at that. Sound Miss Cameron about this Mercy Curtis. If you girls will take her in, she shall come on trial. It lies with you and your roommate, Miss Fielding. Come to me after chapel to-morrow and tell me what you have decided." And so Ruth was dismissed. Chapter 19.